Take your first steps in the courtyard and acclimate yourself to the controls. You wander into the backyard and stare at that strange star statue.
The way that Mario handles in this game is so fluid, so precise, so inherently fun and liberating that it is honestly absurd.
Mario 64 is revolutionary, and I don't mean to discount that in anything I write here today.
Super Mario 64, dude. It's widely regarded as one of the most important games of all time, and that's because
Mario 64 is Nintendo's rendition of the Sistine Chapel. It's a revolutionary title that reinvented the 3D video game landscape. The controls are the best part about it, with it feeling as if the analog stick was doused in mercury. Throughout the years, it's gained a significance in the gaming community for it being the first titles to put Mario in the 3D dimension. But it was also the first Mario game to include jumping as a game mechanic. From 1978, Nintendo garnered a reputation of not including jumping in most of their mainline titles. Games like Kirby's Adventure, Legend of Zelda, and Super Metroid didn't have jumping as part of their core gameplay. Even for the original Mario, you would just walk to a Goomba and die. It's beyond me how this game sold more than 4 million copies. The lack of jumping was largely due to Nintendo's slow spiral into bankruptcy.
Japan was the most productive country in the world, and the Japanese were the most industrious people.
By 1983, they began to waste 78% of their budget on creating Game & Watches. These systems usually cost a lot because they were running on these often incredibly complex pieces of hardware. This made Nintendo cut back on ideas for video games. The design for Kirby initially took 28 weeks to be finalized, with many redesigns being made throughout development. With Mario 1 being a financial footstep for Nintendo's economy, Nintendo wasted no time on creating the amazing original follow-up sequel, Mario 2. Mario 2 is Mario 1 cranked up to the max. Mario 2 has harder enemies, new power-ups, and more precise platforming. And for this, the game has been banned from North America for being impossible to beat under normal circumstances. Nintendo didn't care about what happened with Mario 2, as they were more interested in creating the amazing original follow-up sequel, Mario 2. Its dreamy-like gameplay combined with its unique platforming makes Mario 2 a remarkable experience in the Mario franchise. Too bad it has no fucking jumping. At this point, Nintendo's no jumping attitude with Mario started to anger their consumers. Fans would compare Mario to games like Donkey Kong and Castlevania, which included jumping. Nintendo's response to this was to try to implement a jumping subscription in Super Mario Land. Fans were surprisingly outraged at this, but bought the subscription anyways. Starting in the late 1980s, Nintendo would take an indefinite hiatus for Mario, stating that the lack of interest in the series has caused them to abandon the franchise entirely. But things wouldn't stay like that for long, as Miyamoto has started thinking how he can take the series to the next level. As he pondered, he began to realize something was missing. Something that would truly make Nintendo click in the video game scene. Overworlds. At this point, Nintendo's Mario games are seen as low-effort jokes. Nintendo tried to put out their next big game, Super Mario World, but it was already too late, as people generally avoided Nintendo like the bubonic plague in favor of playing the Sega Genesis.
Stokes, president of HAG.
It's bad enough that Sega Genesis has the most 16-bit games, but this new Sonic the Hedgehog, oh, he really ducked my doilies.
This would cause a boost in Sega's revenue, making the Sega Genesis sell 20 million more copies than the SNES by the early 90s. As by the end of the Super Nintendo's lifespan, Super Mario World would sell about 20 million copies compared to the 44 million that Sonic had. As an effect of this, Nintendo reduced their catalog to making these shitty-ass handheld titles, making Mario once again become dormant in the development hell. While working on Star Fox, Miyamoto would think about transferring Mario into the 3D realm. It was a risky decision considering how it involved creating an entirely new Mario game from the ground up. But Miyamoto persisted anyways, and in less than 2 years, Mario 64 would be released onto store shelves. Mario 64 felt like something new from Nintendo. It was the same adventure but within a different dimension. Mario 64 took everything about Mario and made it better, making the experience feel ever so amazing. Coinciding the release of Mario 64 was Sonic the Fighters, which was welcomed with average ratings from reviewers like Game Machine. But compared to Mario 64, the game's a failure. And I forgot to mention the camera system. So the camera